My name is Mary Frances Davidson. I'm the director of the Unesco GRO Fisheries Training Program, and I am the work package leader for work package number 7, which in FarFish relates to capacity building and dissemination. What I'm going to do today is take you on a little journey and tell a story that started more than 4 years ago about capacity building within the scope of the FarFish project, a little bit about our approach and about what we've accomplished. So to start with, I'd like to spend some time talking about what capacity building is and why we do it. So when we speak about capacity, we're talking about an essential part of making sure that sustainable fisheries management can take place based on the best available science. And we think of capacity building at different levels. To start with, there's an enabling environment that exists so we can make sure that whatever capacity we're developing can actually take root and grow. And within the enabling environment, we have the institutional level, which relates to, in the fisheries management cycle, all the science and policy and stakeholders that are involved in making sure that sustainable management can take place. Within institutions, we speak about individual capacity, and that is the competence of individuals to analyze data, collect data, make policy advice, and basically the individuals working together to create the best available science and the best available policy. Now you can see that these dimensions of capacity relate to one another. Without strong individuals, you can't have strong enough institutions. And without an enabling environment that is able to make use of the institutional knowledge, the sustainable fisheries management can't take place. So within FarFish, we relate to specific objective number 7, which is to provide training, dissemination, and education to stakeholders within the value chains of the EU fisheries in SFPA waters and international waters, and to improve their professional skills and regional networks. So there is within FarFish a broad emphasis on capacity building. And now I'd like to talk a little bit about how we got started and where we went. So the basis of all the capacity building activities that happened within FarFish were training needs assessments. And in these training needs assessments, we visited the case study partner organizations and asked specific questions about the mandate of the organization, the context of fisheries development, what training actions within the scope of FarFish might be the most appropriate to address those gaps, and where we saw the priorities. So we went to Senegal, we went to Mauritania, we went to Cape Verde, and we went to Seychelles. And within these training needs assessments, we had certain goals that we were trying to accomplish, and we had a very specific approach to try and answer these questions about the mandate and the fisheries context and the institutional training priorities. The main goal of the training needs assessments was to establish what we both agreed were the biggest priorities for training. Our approach to doing this was to have key interviews with the staff of FarFish partner organizations. We visited them in person and we discussed their needs. We analyzed the institutional capacity and we used as a basis for this the case study characterization, and then took it a little bit further and tried to figure out really what's going on the ground, where the gaps are, and how FarFish might answer those gaps. So at the very first part of the project, we visited Senegal, we visited Mauritania, we visited Cape Verde, and we visited Seychelles. Now, within the scope of the FarFish project, Work Package 7, dealing with capacity building, had a menu of sort of training options. that we were trying to plug in after the training needs assessments with the specific needs of the partners. The first is the Unesco GRO Fisheries training program, which is a postgraduate 6-month program that's run in Iceland. And we committed 5 fellowships over the life of the project. The second is a diploma in marine management innovation operated through the University of Tromsø. The third was a tutor web course that was meant to be offered in country. And the final was a short course. And as I said before, we let the training needs assessments guide what content and what target audience each of these interventions would address. So to start with, the UNESCO GRO Fisheries training program is operated every year from September to March, and our funding comes from the Icelandic Ministry for Foreign Affairs. We target mid-career fisheries professionals from developing countries, and our work is at the institutional and individual levels. Like I mentioned before, we see training individuals to operate within their institutions as a cornerstone of making sure that sustainable fisheries management can take root. In the program, about half of the time is dedicated to an individual research project, which usually the fellows who come and study here work on data from home and work on solving a problem that they can bring back solutions to their institute and also share what they learned with their organizations. So in the first, after the training needs assessments, we selected 2 fellows from Cape Verde to participate in the program, and they were in the first FarFish cohort. Alciani worked on creating a new age length key based on some otoliths that were unanalyzed from home. So she brought them with her to Iceland and developed this new age length key. And Nuno worked on the stock assessment and influence of environmental parameters on mackerel scad in Cape Verdean waters. So in some respects, they got training on the stock assessment methods and took what they learned back home. In the next group was a fellow selected from Senegal named Camarel, and he worked on assessing the Northwest African stock of black hakes, which is of particular interest to the FarFish project, using catch MSY and length-based spawning potential ratio models. And here you can see him with an Icelandic minister and the director of the GRO Center. The next training intervention on the menu of FarFish capacity building activities was the University of Tromsø diploma course, which was held in March of 2020. And as you can see, there were 14 countries present. There were 29 registered participants, and 8 participants ended up taking the final exam and getting credits for the course. The lectures were streamed and are available for viewing on Tromsø's website. While that course was going on, this guy decided to pay a visit. The course had to shut down in the middle of the week, and the rest of the course was operated online. And this little bugger had quite an impact on the capacity building initiatives in the FarFish project. As this is sort of the turning point for us. Everything we had planned to do, we needed to modify after the coronavirus showed up. So, for instance, the tutor web course, we had developed a new set of models or a set of exercises specifically for training to be offered in the Seychelles. And our original training needs assessment indicated that this would be most useful for Seychelles Fishing Authority. So the tutor web is based on a model called Education in a Suitcase, where laptops or tablets are brought to a country and then the course is run. We had planned to do this in Seychelles, and ultimately we were not able to because of the coronavirus. Instead, we ran a workshop through the GRO FTP for the fellows who are here now to show them what content had been created through FarFish so that they can practice on their own. A similar solution was developed for the regional short course that we had planned to run in Cape Verde originally as a 3-day workshop for all the case study countries. Ultimately, what we needed to do in the end was design a course that could be delivered here in Iceland for both the Fisheries Training Program fellows and outside participants from the case study organizations. And we did have participation from IMROP in Mauritania, from the Seychelles Fishing Authority, and from the IMR in Cape Verde. This was a 3-day workshop in the end, and it was broken into 2 different sections. So the first part was an open seminar where we had 50 people participating. That was an introduction to stock assessment and data limited methods. And then the remainder of the course was a workshop that was closed exclusively for FarFish partners, that the participants got a chance to practice using the data limited methods tool that was developed in FarFish with data sets from home. I want to mention a little bit about the ongoing impacts of the capacity building within the FarFish project. So while we could still travel, we visited Cape Verde again after the fellows who had been studying with us went home. And when we did, there was a seminar within the then INDP and now IMR, where they presented the results of their research to their staff. And I think this is a really important thing to mention because it shows that the individual training is moving into the institutional level. And eventually what we hope to see is an enabled environment for the best scientific practices to take hold. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention the fact that though we were not able to graduate 5 fellows from the GRO FTP while the life of the project was going on, there are currently 3 FarFish fellows studying with us in Iceland. These fellows come from Senegal, from Mauritania, and from Seychelles, and they're working on stock assessment and on fisheries policy and management. And we do hope that through their research projects, they will be able to add value to the work that their home institutions are doing. Thank you.